A Stanford school is celebrating Black History Month with a unique video project. News 12 Connecticut's Marissa Alter reports it's turning students into teachers.
At Rogers International School in Stanford, the morning video announcements this month include appearances from students, each with a different lesson for their peers.
My name is Piper Paris, and my Black History Month hero is Shirley Chisholm. Today we are going to be talking about an NBA player called Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Hello, my name is Jack McCambly, and I'm here in Harlem at the Duke Ellington Memorial.
Volunteers in kindergarten through 8th grade helped create short clips highlighting important Black figures in our history.
We thought, what better way to get our kids learning than to have them doing the research and present it to their fellow students.
Erica Carroll is a Rogers parent and the head of the PTO's new anti-racism committee, which came up with the video project as a way to celebrate Black History Month.
We also just thought it would be a great way for students and their parents to really talk about race. It's an issue that not everyone feels comfortable talking about. So this is just a natural way to get those conversations starting.
Students recorded quick videos about their hero.
I think Langston Hughes was a communicator. I think that Ruby Bridges was a risk taker.
I think that Jackie Robinson was balanced.
Then sent the clips to Carol, who added music and pictures. The videos feature athletes and artists, politicians and civil rights icons, many who paved the way for today's heroes.
This opened doors for current women of color like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, also from New York, and our new Vice President, Kamala Harris.
The response has been overwhelming. It's been beautiful. It's needed, it's necessary, it's a timely project, so it's really been well received.
In Stanford, Marissa Alter, News 12 Connecticut.
Culture.
Hi, News 12. I just won The Voice.
Community.
The first shot went into the arm of Port Washington nurse Sandra Lindsay.
Connections.
Seems like so much fun.
It was pretty hectic.
Discover News 12 New York.
Hey, look, we're happy, right?
A new way to see the best of News 12's local channels from across the tri-state area, all in one place. Now streaming 24/7 on your favorite devices. Discover News 12 New York today.
Today's Chef's Quick Tip, we learn how to make sugar cookies.
I'm Tina Redbone. Today's Quick Tip. Joining us is pastry chef
Suzanne Byrne from Sweet Brioche Artisan Pastries in Trumbull, Connecticut.
Suzanne, I can't believe you only need 3 ingredients for these fantastic cookies.
These are surprisingly simple. They're based off of a Peruvian shortbread recipe called an alfajores, and you can fill them or eat them plain and just dust with a little powdered sugar. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some all-purpose flour and put it in a bowl fitted with a paddle attachment, some powdered sugar, and some butter that we've cut up into little pieces. And this has actually been out for a couple of hours, and that's only because it's a little colder, where if it was summertime, I might only leave these guys out for about 30 minutes. It's gonna start to look like a little bit of sand mixture, and then it's gonna turn and it's gonna form into a bowl. And when it forms into that dough, we're gonna be ready to roll it out right away, which is one of the best things about this recipe. There's no waiting. And now you have this dough that's ready to use right away. And that's one of the reasons that I like this dough the most. I put the flour down, right? And you start here and you roll here, right? But when you turn the flour, you take it and you move it to where the flour still is so that you get flour all over. Not too much pressure, right? Really gentle. Roll it out. Make that quarter turn, scoop up that flour so that we know we're not sticking, right? So move it around. You don't ever pick the dough up from the table. And then it's the same thing, a little roll and a little turn, right? And then your dough should become really, really even. So once you get it to that point where it looks like it's the thickness of cookie dough, right? You're just gonna take your little cookie cutter and cut out these beautiful little shapes for it and just move it over to a sheet tray that I've lined with parchment paper already. And you're going to bake these guys at 325 degrees until they're a nice light golden brown in color. I like to just dust them with a little bit of powdered sugar.
And this tip is online. Just search for News 12 Connecticut Quick Tips Sugar Cookies. With Suzanne, Tina Redwine, News 12 Connecticut.
They had that classic Motown sound. And although most people think of Diana Ross when they hear the Supremes, many in the music industry will tell you that Mary Wilson was just as big a factor in their success, holding the group together after Ross left.
She was just the sweetest, most down-to-earth woman that you could imagine.
If John Scarpula was Mary Wilson's musical director for 4 years.
Mary's a little more down-to-earth, so that a little more approachable. Mary was like the thread of the Supremes, where she kept all the girls together.
Wilson's career lasted long after the Supremes eventually broke up, always bringing in big crowds wherever she sang.
So many artists these days are here for about 5 minutes. You know, she was here for 50 years.
Richie Cannata performed with Wilson several times.
She wanted to play New York State of Mind, which was the first song that I played with Billy Joel.
Professionally and personally, how would you describe her?
Class A, all the way. She was so gracious. She was beautiful looking. She was beautiful spirit.
That was Doug Geed reporting. Mary Wilson died Monday night at her home in Nevada. No cause of death was given. She was 76 years of age. Black Americans don't want a vaccine because of historical racism. And of course, we talk about Tuskegee, which of course we know is the experiments which ran in the 30s through the 70s, where researchers recruited hundreds of black men in that study on syphilis, and then they tracked the disease and they didn't even treat them, let them know what disease they have. So have you heard from any patients who are still concerned about that study and its lasting effects?
So I deal with community, right? I'm not a frontline provider, but I'm a physician that looks at systems and that treats the system. And I'm talking with community every day, whether it's faith-based settings, whether it's community-based organizations, whether it's a community in the hospital where I work. And yes, people are concerned. They are just as concerned as what has happened in the past as what is happening today. If you look at the story of Dr. Susan Moore, a Black woman physician in Indiana who had coronavirus and unfortunately succumbed to the disease, she had to take to social media to affirm, to advocate, and agitate for her life. She felt she wasn't getting adequate treatment and that there was some level of racist discrimination or bias. So that collective trauma that Black and brown communities have experienced has not gone away. It's very much there. But I think it's also important to emphasize that is just one issue. The other issue is a lack of access, okay? The other issue is, are we doing a full court press to our Black and brown communities to decode the science, to demystify the science, and to speak in plain spoken terms so that people understand why and how this vaccine came to market, that it is safe and that it's effective.
Reverend Vernon Shelton, who's from Long Island, tells us that for many in his congregation, the hesitancy to take the vaccine stems from what they're hearing and seeing online. So listen to this.
It's too fast. This vaccine, they came up with it too fast. There's not a lot of information about it. But unfortunately, I think a lot of people are listening to what they see on social media, what they see, listen to friends, rather than doing the necessary research. I had reservations, but I understand I had to weigh the risk of COVID versus the risk of the vaccine. And I decided that I'd rather take my chances with the vaccine rather than take my chances with COVID.
So how can we stop the spread of misinformation about the virus and the vaccines?
Very, very good question. I'm going to repeat 3 points that I have been saying all day, and I say all day because I'm having this conversation constantly in community. 1, healthcare systems, clinical research, the scientific community more broadly. We must demonstrate trustworthiness. We must have honest and open dialogue. And how do we do that? We do that by validating people's fears, validating people's concern, and validating their skepticism. When we're able to do that, when we're able to practice empathy and see the person across the table from us and understand their lived experience, that gives that person the freedom, that gives that person the permission to have bi-directional dialogue. So we need to hear from our patients. What are you?
Cowboy hats, they're not something typically associated with New Jersey, but is that because no one wears them or because the outside world is less familiar with the parts of New Jersey where they are worn? Inspired by New Jersey's favorite son, Bruce Springsteen, our Brian Donahue drove into Salem County to go hat shopping.
We just have to remember the very soil we stand on is common ground.
Bruce Springsteen, starring in a Jeep commercial that aired during the Super Bowl, delivering a message of unity for our divided nation. But on Twitter, a lot of people got pretty fixated not on what was coming out of Bruce's mouth, but on what he had on his head, a cowboy hat. Seems a lot of folks think Jersey guys just don't wear cowboy hats. There was a river of tweets like this. Take that damn cowboy hat off, Bruce. You grew up in Jersey. This Jersey culture PhD said, I had a hard time with Springsteen in a cowboy hat. Isn't he a gritty Jersey guy? Now, you can sit behind your keyboard and tweet that nobody in Jersey wears cowboy hats, but my advice, don't come in here and say it. This is Zane's Western Apparel and Work Gear in Piles Grove, exit 2 off the Turnpike. They sell a lot of cowboy hats to a lot of New Jerseyans.
When we get customers in here that are working from out of town, they're surprised that we have the selection that they might see in Texas as far as boots and hats and jeans and things like that, because when people typically think of New Jersey, they don't understand that South Jersey is more rural.
Zane's was founded by the son of a horse trader, Addison Zane, in 1971.
But you would never see him anywhere without his cowboy hat on.
Yeah, Bruce's hat flap proves once again how little people outside of New Jersey seem to know about New Jersey. You can say he's being a phony, but it sure has nothing to do with the state he's from. After I got my hat, I drove the back roads through the snowy farms and fields, just like Bruce in the commercial, till I got to Cowtown Rodeo, the longest continuous running rodeo in the U.S., where, when it's open from May to September, you'll see a lot of cowboy hats. They tell me Nelson here is a friendly bull. Springsteen's song The River was written about Bruce's sister, who married a rodeo rider named Mickey, who used to ride here at Cowtown. Bruce has been spotted in the stands from time to time, probably in his cowboy hat. For now, it was just Nelson, the friendly bull, and a bunch of pigeons who kept getting scared by the sounds of gunshots coming out of the woods. None of it fitting in with what these people on Twitter probably think of New Jersey. So, as usual, when folks try to pigeonhole New Jersey, they get thrown off their high horse pretty quick. I'm Brian Donahue. This is Positively New Jersey.
Besides Zane's, there are several Western wear stores in the area around the Cowtown Rodeo, proving Brian's mantra once again that there's just almost no part of American life that you cannot find right here in New Jersey. Well, if you go to a gym right now, you're wearing a mask. If you run the treadmill, you're wearing a mask. A runner from Old Bridge is wearing a different kind of mask because she's getting ready for a very different kind of race. Rachel Belmont, her mask is not for COVID. Her mask is to prepare for oxygen deprivation. You see, in May, she's going to run the Mount Everest Ultra Marathon, over 37 miles at altitude. Race starts at 17,000 feet. At 24 years old, she will be the youngest woman to ever finish one of the craziest races on earth.
There were some people too, like, who were just, taken aback, who called me crazy, and yeah, just kind of like you said, gave you those looks like, what are you doing?
Well, what she's doing is she's logging over 100 miles a week on the treadmill right now to get ready. All the while, she's a nursing student at Rutgers. She's seen COVID up close. She's known about fear this past year. For her, this run sends a message.
Inspire other younger women to do this kind of thing. That's what it's all about. Just empowering other younger female athletes to do hard things and believe in yourself and, just kind of power past the doubt.
She's going to train here in Jersey the next couple of months. Then it's off to Mount Everest, Dave. She's going to make Jersey proud.
Starting at 17,000 feet, that's sick. That's awesome. Good for her. Congratulations, and keep doing Jersey proud on that one. That's a fantastic run, something you'll never forget.
Owners around the city are hard at work preparing for the start of indoor dining on Friday. Though some tell us it is news they're of course thrilled to hear, it comes with its own challenges as they are rushing to be ready. News 12's Hannah Klieger right now outside Elite Williamsburg tonight with more on that. Hannah?
Jessica, one of the big challenges owners at this Latin fusion restaurant tell me is getting their staff back together after having to lay off a portion of their employees because of ongoing lockdowns. But there's a lot of excitement around indoor dining, both from customers and staff here who tell me they added new items to their menu in preparation for Friday.
Preparations underway at Elite Williamsburg and other eateries around the city, with the comeback of indoor dining just over 24 hours away. At this 2-floor restaurant with a rooftop deck, 25% indoor capacity allows them to serve more than 60 people at any given time.
So much went into outdoor dining and investing and coming out of pocket with new expenses and not generating revenue. So I know this will help those businesses that didn't have the traction, the traffic. This will help them tremendously.
Their outdoor rooftop igloos have been popular, but the co-owners say it gets incredibly difficult with lots of snow and windy conditions.
It's hard. You're not able to win. That's what it feels like. It's like you're not able to win with this weather and these rules that change every day.
So with the holiday this weekend and the potential for more bad weather, they say Valentine's Day reservations came flooding in.
The interest is definitely there. That's one thing. We were sold out in an hour once we announced it.
As the restaurant industry citywide is struggling, they're also hoping more can be done to help those who have taken the hardest hits.
PPP is a great program, but you have to go through a lot to get a PPP. I think with the struggles all these restaurants and small business have gone through, they shouldn't make it so difficult.
And this particular restaurant only got their liquor license last November, just 4 months before they then had to close down because of COVID-19 in March. They say from the very beginning it's been challenge after challenge, but the owners say they, like the rest of us, are looking forward to a brighter future. In Williamsburg in Brooklyn, Hannah Klieger, News 12.
Thank you so much. And right now,
feathers no longer ruffled in Rybrook. A local family getting the go-ahead to own chickens after years of unknowingly violating a village law. News 12's Michelle Brown has the details.
This is Pancake. Pancake was one of our original birds.
As far as a chicken's life goes, Pancake has been living large in a souped-up coop for the past 5 years in Rybrook.
Spoiled chickens lay better eggs.
Jake Dolce grew up with chickens in Harrison and wanted the same experience for his kids.
George, what's the name of this one?
Spice.
Spice. So they're really great just for development, sense of responsibility.
So Dolce started raising chickens 5 years ago. He has 6 hens now. But things recently went afoul when he learned there is actually a no farm animal law on the books in Rybrook. He appealed to village leaders to modify the ordinance.
We took it really seriously. We didn't just say, hey, we want to have chickens. We made a pretty strong case as to why we should have chickens and raise them as pets.
Dolce, a salesman, made a winning pitch. The village agreeing to give the family an exemption and modifying the law, allowing them to own a maximum of 6 chickens.
This family did such a good job with their presentation to the village board, and they truly explained to us and made us understand why these weren't just chickens, these are pets.
Now this chicken coop is on about 1 acre of property, and there is not a rooster in the bunch, so there's no nuisance noise to disturb neighbors. No chance these chickens ever fly the coop. They're kid appreciated and now village approved.
This is their home.
In Rybrook, Michelle Brown, News 12.
Good stuff. Well, the Rybrook Village Board holding a public hearing tonight on the modification of this chicken law. It is expected to pass.
Good news.
All right, Emily, thank you. We also want to highlight causes impacting people of color this month. And according to transplant advocates, New York State has an organ shortage. Now, in the boroughs, the overwhelming majority of those waiting for a life-saving donation are people of color. News 12's Amanda Bossard sharing the story of a father and daughter who have experienced those statistics firsthand and are now encouraging others to consider becoming an organ donor.
10 years ago, Anita Moore received a diagnosis that changed her life in the blink of an eye.
It actually just happened very quickly. I was working and I noticed I couldn't see. So I kept going to the doctor trying to get glasses, and eventually I was diagnosed with keratoconus, which causes the light cannot reach the back of your eye.
The NYPD officer at the time needed a cornea transplant to restore her vision, so she waited until a matching donor was found.
That time is terrifying, it's scary.
Typically in other parts of the country, someone may be on the waiting list, depending on the type of transplant that they need, for roughly 2 to 3 years. In the state of New York, it's about 3 to 5 years, and not unusual for people to have to wait even 7 to 8 years for the transplant that they need.
Of those on the organ transplant wait list, in the Bronx, 93% are people of color. In Brooklyn, 82%, according to Live On New York. The Bronx native was fortunate to find a match within a few months, and the surgery was a success. But the #1 man in her life was still waiting.
I was on the transplant list for, I would imagine, 8 years.
When Cortez Moore's liver disease took a turn for the worse, his daughter offered up part of her own, going from organ recipient to live donor within 7 months.
It was after my surgery, but I got the idea to let me try to help him. And now he's fishing, he's traveling, he's driving, he's on the move.
She gave me a second birthday.
His gift, watching Anita rise through the ranks to become Detective Moore at the Special Victims Unit, serving and protecting New York City the same way she did for her dad, while encouraging others in communities of color to consider organ donation.
This idea that you're extending somebody's life. You only have one, you know? And I know my father is absolutely grateful, but I'm just grateful. I feel like I received the gift also, being able to help him.
Amanda Bossard, News 12.